Neighbor Sammy Sosa says Hill was told to stay away from the bodega.
A person that was out of control and, unfortunately, it led to his demise.
Mac Rosenberg, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in Bushwick.
A new poll shows Zohran Mamdani leading Andrew Cuomo by 21 points in the race for mayor, 45 to 24%. The Marist survey polled likely voters. Republican Curtis Sliwa was third with 17%, followed by Mayor Adams with 9%. This poll also found that in a hypothetical two-man race between Mamdani and Cuomo, 49% of likely voters would support Zohran Mamdani, 39% Andrew Cuomo, 5% said they remained undecided. President Trump has filed another lawsuit against journalists, this time a $15 billion defamation case against the New York Times and 4 reporters. The lawsuit, filed in federal court in Florida, names several articles and 1 book published in the lead-up to the 2024 election, claiming they were part of a decades-long pattern of intentional and malicious defamation. A Times spokesperson says the lawsuit lacks any legitimate legal claims and instead is an attempt to stifle and discourage independent reporting. He also said the Times will not be deterred by such intimidation tactics. The president has also filed a $10 billion suit against the Wall Street Journal over its reporting on him and Jeffrey Epstein. The U.S. Attorney General is clarifying comments she made about hate speech.
The Attorney General now vows to go after those who espouse hate.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech.
Pam Bondi said it in an interview with podcaster Katie Miller.
You can't have that hate speech in the world in which we live.
But her remarks have led to a strong backlash from fellow conservatives, some of whom quoted Charlie Kirk, who posted last year that in America, all speech is protected by the First Amendment. Bondi now says her department will prosecute those who make violent threats. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
The man accused of shooting and killing right-wing activist Charlie Kirk has been formally charged tonight.
Prosecutors in Utah will seek the death penalty in the killing of Charlie Kirk.
I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. I do not take this decision lightly.
Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray says Tyler Robinson has been charged with aggravated murder. He says Robinson's DNA was found on the trigger of the gun used to kill Kirk. The conservative activist was gunned down last Wednesday as he spoke with college students and died soon after.
Correspondent Matt Piper. FBI Director Kash Patel was on the hot seat on Capitol Hill today, questioned by the Senate Judiciary Committee about a number of issues, including the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case.
Republican Senator Chuck Grassley asked Patel,
was Jeffrey Epstein an intelligence asset for the United States government or the foreign government?
Patel said he could only speak for his agency.
Mr. Epstein was not a source for the FBI.
And said he would commit to providing all classified and non-classified records relating to the case. When asked by Democratic Senator Dick Durbin about a potential whistleblower,
indicating that the New York field office was withholding Epstein-related records,
Patel said he wasn't familiar with them.
Correspondent Stacey Lynn. Georgia's highest court has declined to consider Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's appeal of her removal from the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump and his allies, citing an appearance of impropriety over a relationship Willis had with a special prosecutor. The Georgia Court of Appeals ruled that Willis and her office could not continue to prosecute the case. Willis has not commented. We're remembering a Hollywood icon tonight. Robert Redford has died at 89.
He was a matinee idol.
Favorite movie?
Definitely The Way We Were.
I would have to say The Sting. I went to visit my mother, and she wanted to watch a film called A River Runs Through It, because she loved Robert Redford.
But his boyish good looks didn't pigeonhole Redford for more serious roles. Lois Ewan once met him at the San Francisco Film Festival.
I mean, he just seemed like a wonderful actor, but also he seemed to be a wonderful person. At least his track record certainly will live on.
Through the Sundance Film Festival and as an environmental activist. Marla Diamond, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in the Theater District.
Everyone's invited to celebrate. That was the case in Times Square this afternoon.
Hispanic Heritage Month is officially underway.
You carry home here.
People from all over headed to the Latinos in Times Square celebration for the second year in a row.
It's a great celebration because our native country, Ecuador, did the opening part, and that's why we're here. But then you're also seeing Colombia, the Dominican Republic, every Hispanic country will be represented.
We celebrate the whole month of October, Hispanic month. So we are part of them because we are from Latin America.
And there's tons of entertainment with performers who flew in from Mexico, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Ecuador, and the Dominican Republic. Mary Lynn Buckley, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in Times Square.
A new finding in the world of mummies. We'll have that story coming up next. Wins News Time 6:51. Let's get you where you need to go first. Here's Greg Rice.
A lot of you heading towards Citi Field at this hour. The Queens-bound RFK is jammed up closer to Queens. Whitestone isn't awful, and it looks like the worst way over to Citi Field is going to be the Grand Central Parkway in Queens with eastbound traffic from Astoria Boulevard, westbound from the Long Island Expressway. The city-bound side of the George, extra few minutes on the upper lowers, better west side, best of it out. Northbound Deegan and Cross Bronx both getting better out of the Bronx. Lincoln Tunnel, we're looking at about an extra 20 minutes in. Outbound side, no more than 10. Holland, 20 minutes on the go-home side. On the Jersey side, the Newark Bay, it's going to be better for you in either direction. Brooklyn bound Brooklyn Bridge, City bound Midtown Tunnel, still all kinds of slow. Jersey bound Outer Bridge, looks like you got a crash. Goethals to the southbound Turnpike is going to treat you a whole lot better at this point. Out of Nassau and into Queens, westbound Long Island Expressway, we're getting word of a crash over near Little Neck Parkway. We are seeing a whole lot of traffic into the area. The crash is off on the westbound LI at Little Neck Parkway is off to the shoulder, but it's still slow from Searingtown Road. And the westbound Northern State does better. Southern State, eastbound slows to Baldwin Road again, getting you past the Wantagh State Parkway at this point. Greg Rice, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
Let's get a check of your AccuWeather forecast. Here's meteorologist John Furyk.
A lot of clouds out there for tonight, but the breeze will dip back to 61 in Midtown. Not a whole lot on winds Doppler radar right now, but we will see a couple of showers move in later on tonight. And then tomorrow, breezy, cool, damp day and periods of rain and drizzle. Again, nothing terribly heavy, but you'll have to account for it. Maybe allow yourself a little bit of extra time tomorrow. The high just 68, some rain and drizzle tomorrow night, down to 64. And Thursday will tend to dry out again, maybe a morning shower. Clouds going to some sunshine. Pretty nice afternoon. Up to 78. Beautiful Friday, sunny up to 82. A little bit cooler, but nice for the weekend. Right now in Central Park, 71 with some clouds, going down to 61 tonight in Midtown. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist John Furyk on New York's weather station, 1010 winds on 92.3 FM.
Scientists have a message for Scooby tonight.
Hey, Scoob, do you know who tucks a mummy into bed at night? His mummy.
Well, researchers say they have found the world's oldest mummies, and they're not in Egypt. They've been unearthed in Southeast Asia, with some dating back 14,000 years. The burials are in 11 different archaeological sites in Vietnam, China, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Human remains were found in tightly crouched or squatting postures, often with traces of burning in a process just before mummification. The research is published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. You don't have to catch a flight to Puerto Rico to catch Bad Bunny's concert this weekend.
When Bad Bunny wraps up his residency in San Juan Saturday night, the concert will be live streamed free of charge through Amazon Music. That means fans will be able to watch on the app, on the Amazon Music Twitch channel, or Prime Video. The final show will commemorate the 8th anniversary of Hurricane Maria on the island in 2017. Bad Bunny kicks off his world tour in the Dominican Republic in November. Last week, he explained he'll skip the U.S. to avoid the chance of ice raids. Deborah Rodriguez for 1010 wins.
Now, Bloomberg Money Watch.
Oracle, whose stock surged last week, caused founder Larry Ellison to briefly pass Elon Musk on Bloomberg's list of world's richest people, rallied again today, is following Bloomberg reporting that Oracle will become part owner of TikTok's U.S. operations as part of a deal with China. The two-day meeting of the Fed wraps up tomorrow with expectation pretty much universal that policymakers will vote to cut rates. Less universal is agreement on the size of the rate cut, with most expecting a 0.25 percentage point and a few the far less conventional half. Stocks slipped, Dow down 126, NASDAQ down 15, S&P down 9. I'm Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Money Watch on 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
WINS FM in HD1 New York. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
More people get their news from 1010 Wins than from any other radio station in the nation. Tanya Mercado's at the editor's desk. I'm Lori Madden.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM, New York.
71 degrees, partly sunny at 7 o'clock. Good evening. I'm Lane Pijardi, and here's what's happening. 2 bodega workers arrested in Brooklyn after a deadly encounter with a repeat offender. State terrorism charges dropped against accused health insurance CEO killer Luigi Mangione. Cops in the Times Square subway stopped a man with a cache of weapons, including a machete, spear, knives, and daggers. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker clashes with FBI Director Kash Patel at a contentious hearing. Latinos in Times Square as Hispanic Heritage Month kicks off in the city. Sports, Mets host the Padres. Yankees away to face the Twins. AccuWeather says mostly cloudy and rather breezy tonight with a couple of showers later on, low 63. Cloudy, breezy, and cooler tomorrow with occasional rain and drizzle. Steadier rain south of the city with a high just 68. Wins News Time 7:01. Let's get you where you need to go with Greg Rice.
Well, good evening, Lane. The Outer Bridge Jersey-bound, only the right lane is open because of a crash, and what a standstill it is on the Jersey-bound Outer Bridge. Goethals to the southbound Turnpike. That is going to do you so much better. Here is what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. City-bound George, good enough to the upper and lower West Side Highway. That's going to be the best of it, getting you out of town. Lincoln Tunnel into the city an extra 20 minutes because of an earlier crash. Outbound, a pretty good ride. Holland Tunnel still about an extra 15 to 20 out, and the Skyway slower either way on the Jersey side. Stay with the Newark Bay. City-bound Midtown Tunnel a bit slow, so is the Brooklyn-bound Brooklyn Bridge. City-bound lower level of the Queensboro in recovery mode following a crash in the Queens-bound RFK and Whitestone. Still slow with some Mets traffic. That's what the problem is on the Grand Central, too. But eastbound traffic from LaGuardia westbound bad from the Long Island Expressway and the westbound belt in Queens, bumper to bumper from right around Guy R. Brewer Boulevard over to Brooklyn. Greg Rice, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
A man is dead after a fight with 2 bodega workers in Bushwick. Neighbors say the man was a local problem, but the bodega workers have been arrested with charges pending.
The fight between the bodega workers and 59-year-old Jerry Hill was hardly their first confrontation.
If we already had previous altercations and I tell you to stay out of my store, why are you continuing to bring yourself in a store where they already told you you're not welcomed?
Sammy Sosa is Hill's neighbor. She thinks he was mentally ill. Hill was hit in the head and killed during the fight, which Fernando Mateo with United Bodegas of America calls self-defense by the workers.
People need to understand that when you're assaulted, you have the right to defend yourself.
Another business owner across the street tells me Hill assaulted him. Mac Rosenberg, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in Bushwick.
Well, it's not unheard of for people to carry defensive weapons riding the subway after midnight. The NYPD says a 62-year-old Manhattan man was spotted in Times Square carrying a cache of weapons. At around 1:20 in the morning, officers spotted the hilt of a machete sticking out of a waistband, took the man into custody without incident, and then they found a lot more. 12 knives and daggers, a mini crossbow, a small spear, and a pair of brass knuckles. David Bromberg now faces 18 counts of criminal possession of a weapon. A victory in court today for the man accused of shooting the United Healthcare CEO in Midtown. A judge has tossed 8 terrorism-related charges that could have kept him in jail for life.
Luigi Mangione came to court amidst heavy security, chained and shackled on his wrists and ankles. That allowed him only small steps walking up the center aisle of the courtroom. Once seated, the judge quickly announced his ruling. He was dismissing the state terrorism counts against Mangione, saying the evidence did not support a threat to a civilian population or government policy. Mangione spoke frequently with his attorneys wearing prison-issued shirt and pants. He'll return to state court December 1st for pretrial hearings. Later that week, he'll appear in federal court. In that case, he faces the death penalty. Juliet Papa, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Jay Ware is a research fellow studying terrorism and counterterrorism at the Council on Foreign Relations. He says he's not surprised by the judge's decision today.
Domestic terrorism charges in this country are very controversial, and they're going to be very poignant now again, given the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk. There is plenty of energy to push for a domestic terrorism charge in this country, but this was not the case where a charge like this should have been tried
The suspect in the Charlie Kirk shooting also making a court appearance today in Utah, where he was seen and heard for the first time since his arrest.
Utah County Judge Tony Graff asked the shooting suspect, who appeared virtually only once, to speak.
State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. Could you state your name?
Tyler James Robinson. Prosecutor Chad Gruninger.
Just for the court's information, we did file just recently, within the last few minutes, a notice of intent to seek the death penalty.
The judge read Robinson the charges he faces and ended with this.
Mr. Robinson, at this time, you will remain in custody without bail.
He's next due back in court September 29th.
That's correspondent Matt Piper. Back here in the city, Brooklyn's the next stop on Mayor Adams' war on rats, where more buildings will be required to containerize their trash.
Next up in the mayor's trash revolution, the Battle of Brooklyn.
Community Board 12 will soon become the second neighborhood in New York City to have all of this trash fully containerized.
The rollout of the big bins expanding from Upper Manhattan to Borum Hill, Brooklyn Heights, Fulton Ferry, Dumbo, Vinegar Hill, Fort Greene, and the Brooklyn Navy Yard next year.
And it's just important for us to realize there's sacrifices we have to make. And these bins don't take up all the parking spaces, and it's a good trade-off. We want cleaner streets.
Schools in Fort Greene and Clinton Hill will be the first to get the bins this fall. Marla Diamond, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
The threat of a Long Island Railroad strike is now being pushed ahead to January at the earliest. This after President Trump signed an executive order to set up a presidential emergency board to intervene in the MTA's labor pains. Transit worker unions made the request ahead of what was a Thursday strike deadline. In response, the MTA calls this a cynical delay that serves no one and shows the unions were not serious about negotiating or agreeing to binding arbitration. Embattled FBI Director Kash Patel under fire during a Senate hearing today.
From the start, Patel sought to lay out the FBI's accomplishments during his young tenure, like violent crime arrests.
23,000, more than twice from the same time period last year.
And was defiant.
I'm not going anywhere. If you want to criticize my 16 years of service, please bring it on.
Democrat Cory Booker did.
You have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI.
Adding,
I think you're not going to be around long.
Which led to a shouting match.
It is my time to address your falsehoods.
Oh, you can try.
Democrat Richard Blumenthal noted Patel's pledge during his confirmation hearing to not seek retaliation against perceived Trump enemies and recounted a purge of top agents and executives.
I'm not going to mince words. You lied to us.
An angry Patel denied that and says he does not take White House orders on whom to fire. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
President Trump filed a $15 billion defamation suit against the New York Times. He targets 4 journalists who contributed to a book and 3 articles published just before the last election. The Times called the suit meritless and an attempt to discourage independent reporting, adding they will not be deterred by intimidation tactics. At the Eradicate Hate Global Summit in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro says the nation must reject political violence and the rhetoric of vengeance.
Shapiro pointed out the attempted assassination of President Trump, the killing of United Healthcare CEO, and the shooting death of a Democratic lawmaker in Minnesota.
People using violence to settle political differences.
He criticized President Trump as using what he called the rhetoric of rage in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing.
Unfortunately, some, from the dark corners of the internet all the way to the Oval Office, want to cherry pick which instances of political violence they want to condemn.
Shapiro says by not condemning all violence, the president failed that leadership test, failed the morality test, and it makes the country less safe. I'm Ed Donahue.
71 degrees, mostly cloudy. Hispanic Heritage Month kicks off in Times Square. We'll tell you about that. But first, Twins News Time 7:11. Let's get you where you need to go with Greg Rice.
Well, northbound side of 95, the Bruckner getting up towards Middletown Road. They're getting the left lane. Oh, they were trying to get the left lane reopened following a crash, but that's why things are slow out of the Bruckner interchange. If you're not in a truck, the northbound side of the Hutch, that'll do you better getting through the Bronx and up to Pelham Parkway. Here is what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. City-bound side of the George Washington Bridge, pretty good ride right now to the upper and lower level. Getting into town, though, and then getting onto the Deegan, bit of a different different story. It looks like the ramps from the Cross Bronx, if not from the George 2 onto the Deegan, they're all shut down. Looks like you got a closure of the ramps from the Cross Bronx on to the major Deegan Expressway at this hour. Out of town, the Cross Bronx, a slow ride from Sheridan Boulevard. West side, best of it out. Lincoln and Holland, no more than about 10 minutes in either direction. Brooklyn down Brooklyn Bridge, the worst of it out of lower Manhattan. Greg Rice, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
Now the AccuWeather 4-day forecast from meteorologist John Ferret.
Mostly cloudy, breezy tonight. Couple of showers around. The low 61 and cloudy, breezy, cool for tomorrow. Occasional rain and drizzle. The high just 68. Still a little bit of rain and drizzle around tomorrow night. The low 64. Then Thursday we dry out. Maybe a morning shower or some drizzle. Then clouds break for a little bit of sunshine. A warmer afternoon up to 78. Friday looks absolutely gorgeous, mostly sunny, up into the low 80s, and then a little bit cooler for the weekend, but it'll still be nice with some sunshine. Highs generally in the low 70s. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist John Ferrick on New York's weather station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
71 degrees, mostly cloudy. It is the start of Hispanic Heritage Month with celebrations underway in Times Square today.
Hispanic Heritage Month is officially underway.
You carry home here.
People from all over headed to the Latinos in Times Square celebration for the second year in a row.
It's a great celebration because our native country, Ecuador, did the opening part, and that's why we're here.